Tom Kelly in for Joe Giglio alongside Hugh Douglas. And there you heard it last night. Scott Franzke, Kevin Stocker on the call as Francisco Alvarez takes Taijuan Walker deep. Phils end up losing 10-6. And now to talk Phils, all things going on with the Phils with us, we bring in the play-by-play voice of the Phils, Scott Franzke. Scott's call-in, sponsored by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Scott, thanks for hopping on. Rough night last night for Taijuan Walker in New York.
How's the pulse back there in Philly? How we feeling?
I mean, Scott, I didn't even know what to ask you. I was just going to tell you that I missed you the other day when you weren't on the air. I mean, when I was listening to that, I didn't even. I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't even know what to say because I'm in the car last night and I'm driving when the game starts, and it didn't start great. And I was like, well, damn, what am I going to ask Scott tomorrow? So I was just going to say I missed you the other day.
It's really cute.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Hugh.
Yeah, a rough
Makes
one.
Makes me feel good.
I miss you too in the radio booth, Scott, just so you know. But Murph did a great job filling in your place. But obviously, rough night for Taijuan Walker last night. He struggled again. And let's face it, a nightmare season for Taijuan. Scott, just off the top, what have you seen this year that has been different from last year when at least Taijuan was serviceable in that rotation?
Yeah, well, I think he's really searching, and the guy's got a lot of pride. He's got a lot of determination in trying to figure it out, but it just hasn't worked. And I think the big thing that, a drop in velocity hasn't helped. And last night there was a little bit of an uptick over what had been, but again, everything's hard. There's just not enough separation there between his fastball and his split, which was really his bread and butter. I mean, that's what he really got by on the previous 2 years, whether it was the last year with the Mets or the first with the Phillies. And he just doesn't have that combination anymore. So he's trying to figure it out with other stuff. His sweeper, his cutter. It's really clear he's just grasping, trying to find something that works, and it's not working right now. And I feel bad for the guy because I've seen up close how much he works and how much he tries and how much he's tried to figure it out, but it's just not working right now.
Yeah, and Scott, obviously a big issue last night was Taijuan going back out for the fourth inning, and Topper gave his reasoning after the game, and understandable. You got a bunch of games in a row coming up. You don't want to burn your bullpen. Just how difficult of a spot do you think Rob Thompson's in there in balancing putting Walker back out for the fourth and going to that bullpen too early?
Well, I mean, it is a balancing act. I think part of that comes from the luxury of having some cushion, right? Because I think if you're the trailing team, I don't mean in a game, I mean in the standings, and every game is so critically important to make up ground, then I think maybe they're a little more aggressive with the bullpen on a night like last night, and you kind of worry about tomorrow, you worry about Saturday on Saturday. And the Phillies have been in that position before. In fact, even the last couple of years they've been in that position at times. So I think I get it. He feels like, tomorrow, next day, I'm going to be more in the game with the starters that I have. I think, again, the way the fifth starter spot has been, I was looking at it today. It's pretty remarkable. The last 12 times they've gone to the mound, whether it's, as a starter,
right?
Whether it's Allard, Walker, Phillips, or Johnson. This is going back to the 1st of August. Last 12 times, they've combined for an ERA over 13.
Wow.
Now that's dreadful, obviously. The Phillies are 5-7 in those games, which is stunning, right?
Yep.
They're basically a 500 team in those games. They've had some blowouts, there's no doubt. But all in all, they're 5-7 out of the fifth spot there over the last 6 weeks. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to snow anybody here. I found that number to be pretty amazing that they are only 5-7. in those games, because I figured it would have been much worse.
No, and that honestly makes me feel a little better. I wouldn't have thought they're 5-7 in those 12 starts either. But Scott Franzke joining us now, play-by-play voice of the Phils. Now for some positives here, Scott. One of the big things over the last week or so, Bryce Harper went 30 straight games without a home run. Power Strokes coming back a little bit. Hit 2 home runs in that game last week. Hit a big one in Milwaukee earlier this week. What are you seeing from Bryce and his Power Stroke coming back?
I mean, he's there. I think he's on just about everything. And more home runs I think are going to come. But, you see balls like he hit last night. I mean, he lined that double to right center in a big spot. It's hard to argue with what he's doing. I know he's playing through stuff, and I know he's dealing with, those. We see him all the time wincing on those, those follow-throughs on swings and misses sometimes. But he, to me, I like where he's at. I think he looks good. I think last night or the last, little bit here with Trey, I think that's huge. I think Trey's a huge catalyst. I don't worry about Schwarber. I don't worry about Harper, but Trey's been so up and down. And I just think to have those 3 guys going would be big. I mean, they need to get Bohm going. They need to get Casty going, make the lineup a lot deeper. They've got some of those guys at the bottom that are doing stuff now, Marsh, Realmuto, even Stott to an extent. But, there's those right-handed bats in the middle, whether it's Turner, Bohm, or Castellanos. Those are the ones I think they need to get going.
Absolutely. And, Scott, when you look ahead to the postseason here, and obviously still a little ways to go, Phil still need to clinch. The Brewers lost last night, so they maintain a 3-game lead over them in the National League. Assuming the Phillies get one of those top 2 seeds, how do you think the pitching rotation gets structured in the playoffs? Because typically Topper likes to go Wheeler game 1, Nola game 2, but Christopher Sanchez, so much better at home than on the road. How much do you think Sanchez's home versus road splits will factor into that decision for who Topper might throw in a game 2?
Yeah, I think it factors in. How much, I don't know, Tom. I think they're really considering it, that idea. And, everybody's talking about it, obviously, the home numbers for Sanchez. I think you also get a guy in Nola in game 3 that, it's been there. And, let's just say, for instance, you lost the first 2 or one of the first 2, and you got a big swing game there in game 3. There you can rely on maybe the sort of the veteran in Nola and pitching on the road. And he's such the same guy all the time emotionally that you don't worry about him. So I think they'll take that into account for sure. Again, I think how Nola does his next start will factor in. How Sanchez does his last couple of starts will factor in. They'll, assuming they get the bye, they'd have the luxury of setting it up any way they want. So, matchups might come into play too, who they play. That might have something to do with it too, because, if it's a right-handed heavy lineup or if it's a lineup that Sanchez has been really good against or something like that, that might play into it as well. So I think there's a lot of factors, and I don't think they'll be decided on it till they get to October.
Yeah, and Scott, just one more here for you. Obviously, a story around baseball last night, Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Just what can you say about the kind of player this guy is?
I don't know. What can you say?
There's not much,
right?
Yeah.
It kind of makes you think, well, if he's going to do that every year, he's just a hitter. Maybe he should just be a hitter.
Right.
What will pitching take away from him? It's pretty remarkable. And obviously doing it in that fashion, surpassing 50 in both categories on a night like that, driving 10 runs. Just come on. That's just ridiculous. Yeah, pretty amazing stuff. And I don't relish the prospect of having to face. I hope the Phillies get to face him in one sense,
right? Because
it means they've gone deep in the playoffs, probably. But at the same time, he's going to be a tough out to get. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, hopefully they get knocked off before the Phils need to see him.
That'd be fine with me. That'd be all right.
That would be nice. But Scott, unbelievable. Only one home series left this year. Hopefully the Phils can get the division clinched this weekend in New York, and we'll be listening. Thanks.
Fingers crossed.
All right. Hey, keep your chin up, okay?
Definitely.
Keep your chin up.
Definitely.
We are. There you go. Scott Franzke joining us every Friday. There he is. Phil's got to clinch. Just clinch this weekend.
That's all you need is one.
Put it to bed.
Two would be nice, but all you need is one.
Yeah, one would put them in a great spot and really just finish in front of the Brewers.